Hi, let's start with the event. Hi, and very warm welcome to everyone to the Tech Mixer. The Tech Mixer is an attempt by Brunei HQ to bring all the technology, engineering, product managers together and have an interactive session post of our meetup kind of a session where we can interact, learn, share, and grow with each other. And today I have a very interesting speaker, Gautam, Gautam Rege. Um, he is a very ardent open source follower and promoter, and Gautam has a more than 15 years of work ex, and especially loves coding. He still does coding, and that is what he proudly wears as a badge around. Um, Gautam is from George Software. He is going to talk about scaling operations for his tech company. How was his journey? How is his journey, and the lessons that he will share from his leap of experiences that he'll share with us about how do we scale and how do we not be uh, overwhelmed with the monopoly technology companies and have newer options and newer services and broaden our mindset when it comes to tech to help us scale our operations. Over to you, Gautam.
Thank you. That's a pretty good introduction considering she had no notes, no idea, and that's pretty good. That's an excellent memory, I say. All right. Uh, 1739. All right, so I'm Gautam Rege. I've come all the way from Pune just for this. Nah, I'm joking. No, but I do stay in Pune. I coupled up a couple of meetings to come down to Bombay, and I still call it Bombay, not Mumbai. So I'm sorry. But this city is great, but I love Pune much, much, much more. Alright, so for all the hanging around Pune and Bombay, this is a good time. But business has no boundaries, right? And when you're talking about business, it's customers all over the world, it's employees all over the world, it's people, it's process, and it's about a journey. Now, I'm sure a lot of you here have already been through this journey, or are getting into this journey, or have been through this journey for a few years or a lot of years. However, this is a story of the perils that I have faced, some of the perils which we have overcome, some which we have still to overcome, some questions which I pose out and say, if you all can help me out, I'll probably lose a lot less hair than I'm already losing. Alright, so that's the one I use. The interesting point is that I do not have a background about everyone here. So I want the talk to be interesting for everyone. There could be people who are technically inclined, people who are business inclined, people who are neither. So it should be interesting, right? So for all those who have absolutely no interest in the words there, enjoy the pictorial pun on the word scale. So every slide of mine, almost every slide of mine will have something to do with scale. Right? If you don't get it, you probably raise your hand and point a finger like, yeah, ऐसा नहीं करने का, समझा नहीं. So left click, right click. I got it. And explore it. So a little bit about Josh. We are a 15-year-old company. We are a software services company. Based out of Pune, based out of Bangalore. We have about 250 people in Pune, about 150 people in Bangalore, about 10 people in the US. We have an office in Dubai. Life is good. Life is good. We are working in various different technologies. I started in 2007 with me and my co-founder, two people who got out of hardcore techies, no idea, no finance background, no insurance. How often do you hear that? You can start without insurance. I didn't even know what insurance was. I used to pay my entire taxes with my salary. I had no idea. I used to earn a lot of money when I quit, but I had no money when I started because a lot of the pubs in Pune owe their allegiance to me because we used to party there a lot. It's not 3 times a week, not counting the weekends. What? I know Apache very, very well. In fact, Apache doesn't let me in anymore. Because like, dude, concentrate on your business. Starting a company was a lot of fun. If people ever tell you that, don't believe them. Starting a company on the way I did it, on a whim, is absolutely not worth it. I'm glad that I spoke to him here today, and you said you're 50.
Yeah.
And you're going to start your company in a few days, right? In a few months, maybe.
2 months.
2 months. And he has a plan. That is awesome. Right? And I spoke to Ritesh, who's exactly on the other end of the spectrum, who has an idea, who has a plan, but wants all the other advice. So I think the two ends of the spectrum are perfect. And this is how a business probably scales. Now, I had to put this slide in because I have to put things about Josh. We have to talk about the technologies and me myself. I started the C programmer. I code only in Go right now. Yes, I still code every day. I love to code. It's oxygen for me. But I don't need to code. I code because I want to, not because I have to. We started a Ruby shop. We wanted to be a niche company, a boutique shop, just doing specialized Ruby on Rails applications. Diversified. I have 3 other companies which are product companies for all those thinking whether I should be a product or a services company. Don't mix things. It's better to keep them separate. And no better example than Devesh, right? Who started 15 years ago, he said, right? 15 years ago, started a services consulting firm, and now in the product shop. So thanks, Drona, for this. This is typically a very common question which pops up in everyone's mind. As a company, and is it a fair assumption that everyone here is either in a position as a decision maker in a company? Majority of the people here, fair enough? So it's also important to figure out whether you are a technology company or a services company, am I right? Well, let's see. Typically, when you're looking at a product company, the success factors for a product company differ. Right? And there are all nods here. Of course, you know this. How much you're going to raise money and how much does your data scale, infrastructure scale, blah blah blah, stuff like this. And similarly, you have a services company. Completely different success factors. Top line, EBITDA. What's your employee count? What's your employee to revenue ratio? Stuff like this. How do you hire people? How do you fire people? I hope everyone has had a great experience of hiring someone sometime in their life. If you haven't, it's great. It's called being Mr. Black Heart. Okay. But you know what? At the end of the day, a product and a service go hand in hand. There is nothing called a product company. There is nothing called a services company. If you think you're a product company, your product is only as good as the service it provides. And if you are serving somebody, it's a product offering that you have. So very often, the mistake we make is, I'm a product company, I have to think differently. I'm a services company, I have to think differently. It was a conundrum that for me, in the early days, whether what am I? What kind of a company should Josh be? Then we realized that it doesn't really matter. If I'm building a product for a company, I'm offering them a service. If a company is offering services, they're offering to take my services up, it's for building a product which they're going to serve to somebody. It's all the same. The difference, whether you are a product company or a services company, is all about operational efficiency. So whether you are running a product company with different success factors, whether you are running a services company with different success factors, ultimately what's going to be the true formula or the true gauge for success is going to be how operationally efficient are you. Now, do you like that photo? It's a fish with, I think that's haldi, right? And scales, scale, right? So everything about scale. Operational efficiency here is about operations, centralized operations. It's about information systems, and it's about financial control. If we are able to handle these three things very efficiently and keep at it becoming more and more efficient in all these three areas, we have a recipe for success. Now, if there are investors in the house or the people who have invested in any company, the few things that you always ask is, what is it that you waste money on? What is it that you spend money on? What is it that you earn money from? And if there is a veteran investor in the house, it is very easy to say that what is the guaranteed recipe for disaster to a startup. If I want a startup to fail, what is the guaranteed recipe for it? Give them loads of money. You want to see a startup fail, give them loads of money if they know how not to use it. So, operational efficiency is a formula where you want to use your existing resources on hand to the best possible motive. We have to go one by one. I have only about 344 slides. So if it's time for picking up a beer, this is it. We're in Doolally. Is it time to pick up a beer? So, the first part about business operational scale. Okay, think of this as when you are a company which is 15 people, think that you're a company of 100 people. If you are a company of 100 people, think how you will work with a company of 300 people. If you are 300 people, think how will you serve this company if it were 1,000 people, and so on. I have a mantra at Josh that if I ask somebody what is the strength of Josh, and somebody tells me I think it's about 450, it's a wrong answer. I say think 1,000. Then you think process. Then you say, all right, next how to be efficient without having any regard to the number of people in the company. Now, for all the technically oriented people here, there are a gazillion tools out there. This probably is my most embarrassing slide of this presentation because it is an image that I had to pick up from somewhere, because if I have to put out all the tools that are available, there are probably about 500 of them. And then these are the tools. Don't take a photo. No. Don't take a photo, because this is not about the tools or promotion of these tools. This is just about the different criteria for collaboration. And trust me, in my personal opinion, the best kind of collaboration is verbal collaboration. How many of you are, if you are working, how many have remote work? And how many have actually worked from office? Right? Do you enjoy working from office?
Yes.
Right? Yeah. In my company, we put it out there that, you know what, we are going to work from office. We came across a lot of people protesting about what you are called to. In quotes, the email that I received was, you are calling people to office to kill them. But it was a lesson in entrepreneurship. You have to take decisions. I believe working from office is one of the best things that can happen, because you don't have to think about the solutions on your own. You actually have people around to bounce off ideas from. You get to defocus. You get to play table tennis or pool or whatever your company offers, but you get to talk to somebody else about something which is irrelevant. It helps you focus. Defocus is important. People in office definitely have seen productivity increase. And lesser Zoom calls and hey, did you know you're on mute kind of statements. Well, time management, there are tools for this. And I do not want to dwell on this slide. I hate this slide. There are a lot of tools, everybody knows these tools, right? Anyone not using any of these tools, not necessarily these tools, but not using tools for file sharing, documentation, project collaboration, what do you use? Google Workspace, Google, Microsoft Teams. Yeah? Anyone using anything else? Notion, right? Also, but Notion is not, which part would Notion fit in here? Documentation, collaboration, right? The problem is that 90% of your, it's a quick Notion. What are you using for email? So back to one of these tools. Anyone using anything other than this? Ladies and gentlemen, this is our biggest problem. We might think that, oh yeah, we're getting all this stuff. But this is a problem today. It is so unfortunate that in a room full of maybe about 15 or 20 companies, all our workspace collaboration is between Google Workspace and Microsoft Teams, or maybe somebody is ambitious enough to use Zoho. Not me. Right? For everything? Perfect. So insane ambition. But you do realize that this creates a problem. Do you see a problem here? So here is the problem. If you are a company and you know, as a decision maker of a company, you know that you are not going to go above maybe 300 people. If you are going to always remain under 300 people, please feel free to use this. Recently, Google came up with a concept that, you know what, we are not going to give any free accounts anymore. Sorry, you got to start paying for everyone, and I think it ranges from about 2,000 rupees per user per year to 15,000 rupees per user per year, right? I know this because I've been doing a lot of cost benefit analysis on this. If you are going to be on the cloud and you're going to be under 300 odd people, I know I have 500 written out there. I know that. But if you're going to be under 300, you are absolutely good to use any system for collaboration. If you are above 3,000 people, anyone here in a very large organization? I'm guessing not, because then they would have their own event. Right? But the reason for this is because they can go and talk to the highermost regional sales manager of Microsoft in their geography and just get whatever they want. You probably have a few tens of millions of dollars of budget for all this stuff. The problem is, are we in this range? Are we? If you are going to be under 500, between 500 and 3,000 people, what do you do? This is a live problem that I am facing today. I'm sure there are going to be companies here which are going to scale at this number. And this, when I say 500, don't just look at it as an employee count. Look at it as an account. Every account or every email ID in your office over the time will increase. For example, you may have generic accounts, like accounts, payroll, policy, HR, admin, not necessarily aliases but accounts. Each of these accounts matter. There might be a case where you may have to give 15 accounts to your customer or have your customer be a part of your company. At one particular time, you are going to face a problem whether we have to be on the free community edition or we have to go with the enterprise edition, which can be a 10x scale. So what do? So what do you do here? Zoho is an excellent example where you're charged per domain per user. Google is an example per domain per user. Microsoft Teams will fudge it. Oh, we understand. It's Swiggy, so we'll have Swiggy.external, which is different, and Swiggy.com, which is different, and Swiggy.in. We'll combine all these together and give you a code. It's a sales infrastructure, it's a sales pitch. Now, if you are a product company or a services company and you are going to reach scale, are we going to accept ground reality, and is this it? Now, my intent of speaking here is not to tell you all not to or whether to use Zoho, Google or Microsoft. My intent is to tell you all that there are options. Do not be stuck just in that glitch that there are only 2 or 3 players in the world who are going to allow you to do collaboration. If you need to do a cost benefit analysis around this, you can definitely approach some cloud hybrid solutions. Okay, examples of cloud hybrid solutions. Nextcloud, OwnCloud, and there are I think about 6 others of them. I have just named 2, and I'm not promoting any one of them. I have done a proof of concept with Nextcloud, so I'll probably use some of the slides which allow us to talk about this. But knowing that there are options for this gives us an advantage. Now, how many of you all are familiar with the latest? Have you heard of Web3 standards? So you are a techie or a student? What are the two? Of Web3? Oh, that's fantastic. Somebody in the business side of Web3. Awesome. What do you do?
If I'm a startup that I'm running, it's called Upskilling, and we are deploying it on a private blockchain that we are creating it, and speaking to smart contracts. So the idea is that since Web3 is a decentralized platform, it doesn't run on centralized servers. People need things like people will be nodes, they will be operating nodes from their respective regions, and we're trying to build a kind of platform where the idea of metaverse we are planning is not just a gamified version, but it's more interactive and immersive.
Okay. I'm sure everyone understood that. So you're working in the metaverse space.
Yes.
Right? So one of the biggest challenges today, and I'll explain to you why I use the word Web3. One of the biggest challenges today, and I will pose a question to you all. Say for example, you're on Zoho or you're on Google or on Microsoft, and tomorrow Google gets into some sort of big legal litigation and they say, you know what, we are locking our servers. What happens to your data? What happens to your account? And forget what happens to your account. What happens to your identity which you have used for Google login everywhere? Google is not going to, Google servers are blocked. What are you going to do? Ladies and gentlemen, do you know that because we are stuck with the Google, Microsoft and Zoho of the world, we don't even own our own identity. We are relying on a Google login, a Facebook login, a GitHub login, a Twitter login, a Microsoft login for any third-party tools that we use, which means we are giving them ownership of our identity. One of the biggest mandates which was rolled out a few weeks ago by the Web3 standard in CERN is that Web3 will mandate decentralized identifiers, which means there will be no central authority owning anyone's identity, which is where the metaverse comes in. I can own my identity in the metaverse. A metaverse is I'd love to say second life, but that has a different meaning. It's a game. So in the meta,
It's like a Ready Player One.
and I'm open for questions, please. Yes. I think you want to speak in the mic so that we get recorded. No, but it will get recorded better. Awesome.
So my question was that, like you you mentioned centralized operations. Now in the Web3 space, we are the decentralized platform. So we have a lot of file sharing applications like BitTorrent. Then we have Algorand, which is a very seamless internet transaction. It provides you so many options. So how can we manage to bring more amount of awareness? Because we too have been trying to go in events and tell people that why Web3 is not a scam. Because a lot of people adjust the idea of Web3 to crypto. And they think everything in the crypto space comes with very high volatility and there are some bad players. So they do not trust in that sense entirely. But now you have like payment providers in the crypto world. Of course, what happened with Vault is sad. But yes, you have Nexo, that DeFi mechanism, and so many new things are coming up. So how do you think that this can be a good competition with Google and Microsoft? I also feel that a monopoly of both the companies is now tracking for people. So as you mentioned, the data which you have is going to a single source and you don't know what they can use your data for, like Cambridge analytics that happen. So I want to understand how we can utilize it in a much better, efficient manner. The idea of it.
So actually there are a lot of open source projects which are already working on decentralized storage. Okay, there are plenty of them. Like to give you an example, have you heard of this tool called Minio? MINIO.
Yes.
It's an open source tool, which is a direct replacement for Amazon S3. You can put it on any kind of storage that you want. Similarly, there are a plethora of tools which are allowing us to have storage which is owned by us, managed by us, controlled by us, and now they're decentralized. The problem with decentralized storage is redundancy. So you require a lot more storage with a lot more players coming in. So storage is one thing that people, continuous data protection, I talk about it later on, but CDP is something that happens in every organization, backup, continuous backup, so you don't really care about storage today, unfortunately. And I come from a storage background. You don't care about storage. You don't care about compute because you have all these infrastructure for large companies which are handled well. What people are intentionally not addressing is identity. Because identity is the door which opens up for everything. It's the key. And nobody addresses it because if you address it, you lose your hold over people.
So, sir, if let's say someone has to make a Google of Web 3.0, there's a website called Golden, which is planning to do something of that sort. So, how do you feel that they compare in front of these giants? Like, will they be able to overtake them?
So, Web 3 is there to stay. Okay, the blockchain is also there to stay. In fact, for all practical purposes, all cryptocurrency is also there to stay. Correct? It's how people adapt. People adapt and adopt. As people start adopting towards the concept of decentralized identity, storage, and collaboration, these things will automatically fall into place. Today, in fact, banks are coming up with a lot of stable coins. The reason for that is because they do see this as a threat. That you have to get onto the decentralized bandwagon. Even though today it is called a bandwagon, people are moving onto it because you cannot avoid it. So it is going to be a matter of time before decentralized storage network compute, in fact, compute which is not even stored on Earth, could soon become reality. So the earlier we get like quantum computing, people are getting there still, but nobody should have a quantum computer at home. But you are going to lease quantum computing from the larger giants who have owned the infrastructure. And people are talking about having their data centers and their compute centers on the moon today. So it's not going to be far from reality to realize that today we are going to live in a world where we don't see where our data is computed. We don't even see the data, but we know it is secure as long as we know that it is owned by us and not a central entity. So you don't want, so people want to avoid what, for all the Terminator fans out there, we want to avoid Skynet. Fair enough? So once we looked at operations and see how we're looking at the next part is about the information flow. Now, how many people actually have an HR management system in place? complete with timesheets and leave management and policies and stuff like this. Typically at Josh we realized that for a long time, payroll is just an accounting. Payroll doesn't matter much, it's just an accounting function. Today we have a person who looks only into compensation, benefits and payroll. Of course, every company has a dedicated HR, somebody in HR, somebody in admin, somebody in procurement and the relevant teams. The thing is, a lot of companies disregard this until you reach scale. Like us, we are culprits when it came to actually moving from people to process. But the earlier you hop onto this, the better it is. So whether you are a 5% company, a 50% company, or a 500% company, or a 5,000% company, please ensure that you already have your management information systems in place before you even start. It sounds like an overkill, but it is worth having this headache to start with. Right? Now, I don't promote any of the HRMS. These are the names that I was told, Ono, Keka, and there are, I think, a host of others. You should have something which does all these kind of processes. They have your entire depends on attendance management system, how you look at it, but the labor law mandates it. Your provident fund, your NPS schemes, gratuity, all these kind of things can be a pain at scale. So typically we always look at your operating margins, you look at your operating profit, you look at your top line, bottom line, but you forget that if you once you become 5 years old, you may have an employee who is 5 years with you, and you will get a slap on the wrist for not having gratuity provisions in place. The statutory part of a company is super critical when it comes to trying to build in the information system. How many of you all actually have a legal counsel? How many companies here have a legal counsel? Outsourced legal counsel, I'm assuming, right? And if you don't have it, did you do it because you were bitten once? Right? I mean, there's a law always there. Right? You have to be once bitten, twice shy, because once you get into legal trouble, you realize the value of a lawyer. Okay? But it is better to have legal processes in place, and there are legal services which are available on demand. But please ensure that you have these things in place. You monitor timesheets. How many of you are having a tough time telling employees in your office that you should fit timesheets? Or do you all fit timesheets? Do you like fitting timesheets? I hated it. And why do you fit timesheets? This is a question to the crowd. Why do you fit timesheets? Why do you want employees to fit timesheets? Any employees in the house? Yeah, are you told to fit timesheets?
In a sense, in GM.
Yes, but you will have to fill it up somehow or the other somewhere. Why?
They want to track efficiency, completion of work, maybe.
Or your manager doesn't know how well you're working?
I estimate something for 4 days. Do I complete it in 3 or do I take 5? I estimated it in 4 at the start when I analyzed it. But did I complete it in 3? Was my solution quicker? Was my solution taking longer because I did not analyze it correctly? Maybe to track that. In a sense.
But why is that?
We don't have 8 hours a day specifically. So that is not what they're using it. Timesheet for.
So what you're looking at is pure project management. Everybody does this. So if you estimate 4 hours for something and you are actually taking more time, it is not a function of information systems. It's a function between you and your manager and your team lead who decide, yeah, why इतना slow नहीं चल रहा है, क्या हो गया, गड़बड़ है, correct? So why timesheets? This, strangely enough, is not a function of operational efficiency. This is a function of finance. How do you know you have too many people in your company or too few people in a company? How do you know that your customers, whether you're a product company or a services company, they are actually benefiting from your employees? What do you project or can you calculate your employee strength based on your customer count and revenues? The biggest problem is that all employees think that the timesheets are for tracking. Timesheets are not for tracking. Timesheets are finding out whether the customer is happy or not. Whether you have the right number of people doing the job for you, whether you have too many people or too few people doing the job. It's a question of billing, utilization and efficiency. It is not for tracking. Unfortunately, it took me about 20 years to figure this out. When I was working, I know how often I have fought with my manager saying, I'm not going to fill timesheets. If you don't trust me, fire me. And today, I am the person who's supposed to send an email to the company, please fill timesheets or your salary will be held. Right? So talk about hypocrisy at its peak. But when one, yes.
That's like when WhatsApp got sold for 19, it had only 19 employees. So we thought that these are used for financial calculations and making sure that your employee count is based on product satisfaction. So how does
So what you're talking about is valuation. Do you know why WhatsApp was valued so high? Because the efficiency, the valuation was so high because their operational efficiency was insane. So they built a system which, for their customers at scale, brought down what you call as the customer acquisition cost to like cents, got their lifetime value LTV, which is out of the roof. That's why WhatsApp was picked up so quickly. And by the way, had WhatsApp held out a little more, Telegram would have come in and actually spoiled the party for them. So they sold at the right time. They were lucky they got bought at the valuation thing of $1 billion valuation, I'm not right. $1 billion valuation. Valuation and what are the different things. So when you are valued high, it means it's a fraction of how far your company can go. The actual amount of money that was spent is actually of equity that was sold. So you just need majority equity to own the company. Right? Now if you have lesser number of people there, your efficiency is sky high. Right? And Facebook bought them for their customer base. Because their customer base is very high. Right? So your employees and these timesheet things. Also now that you mentioned this, अपने level का बात करना है. We are not looking at the Facebooks or comparing our companies with the Facebooks of the world. We want to talk about what matters for us today. And timesheets will ensure that if you are a services company, your customers are happy. If you are a product company, you are using the right people for the right amount of people for the right job ahead. How many people are struggling with hiring? Everyone struggles with hiring, correct? How have you automated your processes for hiring?
So we're using tools these days, basically do an initial screening and sort things out for us. So we actually speaking to the ones who are actually good.
So there is no right and wrong process for hiring. Some of my best hires have been on the basketball court. I met some guy, amazing guy, I hired him. I've hired a person off the football field, I've hired a person on the basketball field, I found a customer on the sports court, things like this. But when you are actually looking at hiring at scale, you have this process in place, sadly. There is no two ways about it. The key factor of efficiency here is how you can speed up this process and get better quality. So typically when you're looking at this, searching for all, these are just names for databases, I think there are a few more, but referrals are big. You should always try and get your employees getting your referrals in the company. It serves two factors. One is of course getting good people, second is you will only refer a person in your own company if you are proud of your own company. So you get the automated pulse of the company. But from start till end, how much time does it take? Typically, a company would take about maybe 2 weeks. Sorry, bad colors. The turnaround time is about 2 weeks. For a walk-in at Josh, it is 1 day. Then no paperwork involved. We have people who will walk in. So these are the tools that I mentioned. Gautam.ai is a tool that we use for entire job process automation, process workflow management. We have Spark Code, which was something that we built ourselves COVID was very helpful for us. We had to do online test cases, online interviews, coding, everything. We have a bunch of techies sat and built this entire product. It's actually being used by Param and by a few other companies too. Interviews, if it's a Zoom interview or an online interview or a Google Meet or whatever it is, we record the interview. The offer is rolled out from Param automatically. We've had people come and tell us, yeah, I don't know about your company, but if you all are able to make an automated offer to me one day, there must be something that you're doing right. How many people were involved in the entire process? 5. Including the person who takes the interview. We have somebody from Barriser, right? We faced a problem where Barriser is an interviewing company. Sorry, I'm just putting it down. That's very, very lightly there. But they help conduct interviews during the hiring process. Right?
Yes.
Got it right. We use their competitor called Kangra. Because not all my developers are going to be free to conduct interviews. But these are the services which are actually enabling a lot of people to automate processes. Use them early on. We save time for our developers and we measure the efficiency of these vendors by the selection criteria and the selection percentage. So there is no point if somebody says, oh, I have screened 100 people, you have taken the first round of interview of maybe 20 people and selected 15, and of those 15 I selected 2. Doesn't matter to me. If I have given 15 interviews are conducted by Kangra right now, if they are able to meet an 80% hit rate for us, their work continues. So it saves a lot of my time. And time is money. So you cannot even have an online coding exam if it is not supporting a lot of different languages. We do this for campus recruitment. Give it out there. We go to like about 200 and something colleges across India. We don't even have to travel sometimes. Put out this case, it takes care of everything, screenshots, recording, everything that people are doing. And we are able to make ends meet. And we are not even selling this product. It's still a product that we are just utilizing internally. But over time, we'll figure something out for this. Now, there's an employee life cycle. You're hiring, you're recruiting, then you're retention. How do you retain people? Ideas. Salaries? So here is one very, very clear thing. A high salary is not motivating. Low salary is demotivating. I'll repeat myself. Giving somebody a high salary does not mean you are motivating them. Giving somebody a lower salary means you are demotivating them. So salaries are guaranteed to ensure that you are not doing anything towards retention. You are meeting others' market standards. Retention can only be done if you are bringing in the culture of your company to figure out things that you're doing above and beyond just the salary. Now, here are a few things, right? And I know the age group here today in this mixer spreads between maybe the early 20s to even people above 50, 55, maybe 60 also. That's effectively 2 or 3 generations. So people or my parents who were like born in the 50s and 60s were looking all about survival because of the socio-economic standard at that time was just for get a job, please work in Tata for 37 years, in Bajaj for 47 years and just stay there, stay put, get a government job and stay put. For me, my generation, which is like the 80s to 2000 generation, it was more about comfort. So like jobs, good, salary, important, comfort, very important. I want to go on vacation. I want to ensure that I live well, I drink well, I eat well, my family eats well. So it's about comfort, it's no longer about survival. The next generation, or what we call as Gen Z or the millennials, what do we look forward to? Are there any millennials in the crowd? Anyone born after 2000? You see. Does salary drive you? I mean, I'm not saying, if you don't get a salary, you're going to leave your job. Right? But what is it that if you're sitting at a coffee table with your friends, do you discuss salary? No. Yes?
So in our Web3 company, what we do is we follow a model of tokenomics, whereby since the company has a circulation of tokens of let's say 500 million, the biggest motivation is the team receives a percentage of it that will be there in their wallet. So the only now criteria is the team succeeds and the whole team is so well enough that the token launches on an exchange and gains value. That means you have become a millionaire even without having to go out and serve yourself.
You're absolutely right. But till so I'll repeat what he's saying. He's saying that they give their employees a percentage of the tokens that they actually mint, and when you get listed or when it goes on the exchange, you are automatically a deemed millionaire. Problem is the word deemed. The problem here in this entire statement is the word deemed millionaire. If I tell you that I'm giving you equity of Josh today, I'm a private limited company. Its value is as good as toilet paper until the company gets listed. If somebody is giving you ESOPs, that is employee stock options, the value of the stock options is not its deemed value. So it is a future liquidity event which is going to make you millionaires, right? However, would this even interest people who are millionaires today? You are going to get 2% of the company if you stay for 5 years and we do this and conditions. Is it interesting? No. So when you are sitting at a coffee table, you are not discussing salaries, you are not discussing ESOPs, you are not discussing deemed value. What are you discussing? How good your company is? How do you say my company is good? You say your company is good by everything else apart from job security. My company sends me to Goa every year. Is that something you would want to tell your friends about? My company doesn't just send me to Goa, they send my family to Goa also every year. My company doesn't just send me and my family to Goa, they even pay for it. It's paid vacation. Would you want to talk about it? Would you want to stick around in such a company? If a company is telling you that, oh yeah, we have an annual event, we have a sports day, we have all these kind of things which are actually interesting. Would you want to work in a company which tells you there is flexible hours, hybrid work, right? I don't believe in hybrid work, but flexible hours. We ensure that you're getting rewards, recognition. These are the things which actually drive the millennials. It is that activities which you are not doing related to revenue generation which drives retention today. There is one big factor, one very big factor which leads to retention. If you are working in a company in which there is no additional learning, would you stick around there? If your company does not have a roadmap for upskilling, you are in trouble. Every technical company requires a technical growth, not in terms of gone are the days where you want to be an engineer or a manager, some other role which is managing people. People now want to learn the next new thing. Quick trivia question. There was a new language released a few days ago. Right? Carbon. How many people had heard of carbon earlier? How many people is this new information to you that Google just launched a language called Carbon which is a potential replacement for C++? How is it that the 20-something-year-old, I don't ask age, but the 20-something-year-old knows that Carbon was released? There, ladies and gentlemen, is an answer. That the new generation is not looking for good, crazy salary. They are looking for technical thirst. So if you are working in technologies which are in the prehistoric area, or the prehistoric era where you are not being able to upskill people, you are facing a tough task. And here is the crazy part. You don't learn. You learn, you apply, and you teach. One of the best retention strategies that we have seen in Josh is the people who learn within a year also start training their juniors. And once they start training, they get rewarded for their effort. Rewards could be in terms of a monetary bonus, rewards could be in terms of an Amazon gift voucher, to do anything. But those kind of rewards where it is not just about तू मेरे लिए कितना काम करेगा या करेगी, but ये आपके फ्यूचर में आप कहाँ जा रहे हो. It's not about what I can do for you, what you can do for me, but it's where I want your career to grow. That's what's driving the companies today. How many of you all have faced issues of security? Needless to say, as a growing company, you're going to face issues of scale which are related to security. Everyone knows about ransomware. You heard of ransomware? Have you ever been hit by ransomware? When you get hit by ransomware, it is so irritating that you're thinking whether, it's a stupid mistake if somebody's made. How do you protect yourself? Now, just out of curiosity, source code, do you use laptops or desktops? Is there anybody here who uses desktops today? Nobody uses desktops. Everyone uses laptops today. So if an employee is at home, do you all have a VPN in your office? Some companies will have a VPN, but today the VPN, so there is a movement called making VPN obsolete or called zero trust. Talking about zero trust, it is not about authentication, it's not about login and password. It is about, is Gautam allowed to log in from that laptop to that service? So it is about device, it is about person, it is about permission. Today, even it used to be about login and passwords, but remember that today there are services or rogue services which can be inculcated into your ecosystem, into your infrastructure. So every service that is accessing your system also needs to be authenticated and authorized. There are plenty of tools out there which allow this, which help you to do this. These practices, putting it today, even when you are not a very large company, help. For example, we use some of these tools. Have you heard of mobile device management tools? There are lots of them out there. All of them like super expensive. Now putting out there, super expensive. We use LifeCycle. Another interesting product we found on the market. It helps me locate, lock, wipe, encrypt, reboot a machine remotely. Why do I do this? It's not because I don't trust my employees. What happens if one of my employees traveling somewhere forgets their laptop at the airport? It's very easy to remove a disk and get the data. We don't have to have encrypted disks on laptops. What happens to that data of my customer which is sitting on that? What happens to the source code? We are easily able to locate a device, or in case of theft, we are able to lock it and remotely wipe it. Now, as a company grows up, where you gain in trust in processes, you lose trust in people. I am sorry for saying this, which is the bane of scaling larger companies. Once you start scaling, you become less people dependent and more process dependent. To put it very crudely, when Josh was about 30-35 people, I knew everyone's everything. I knew where they stayed, I knew about them, I knew about their lifestyle, I knew about their parents, I knew about their family, I knew everything about everyone. 450 people, I'm sorry, but it's embarrassing to say that there are times where I don't know who's been hired and who's already left the company. And I don't know the people's faces. I already have a bad memory, unless you're generating revenue for the company, then you're my good friend. But otherwise, I won't remember faces, I won't remember names. What happens if one of those people downloads the code, source code, and leaves it carelessly in some place which somebody else picks up and gives to a competitor? Do you all protect your systems? You should. Day one. These are now tools which are very, very cheap, they are not super expensive. So use tools like these. I have left the last and the least interesting, especially finance. You know the weird part is, I am not going to ask, I'm not going to challenge, but I'm going to throw the question out there. Very few people here, do you know the difference between finance and accounting? Don't even nod your heads, don't even answer that question. Because I can tell you from my past experience that I'm a techie. I had no idea what is the difference between accounts and finance for the longest time. In fact, I said, hey, this is not my area of expertise. Why should I look into finance? Let me get somebody else to do it. That person came into the company and royally screwed our happiness. Royally. To a level where the promoters were left as beggars, where the company was showing excellent numbers. The thing is, people, finance drives everything. Today, I can read a balance sheet. I do not have a management degree, but I can read a balance sheet and I can tell you whether this company is doing well, whether this company is going to get into trouble or not. Today, I actually get involved with my finance team trying to figure out things like, you'll be surprised. These are the kind of dashboards that are there in the company. This is actually a live dashboard that I have to mask a lot of information out. For days outstanding, accounts receivables, what is the credit limit that is going on, how many clients, how many are there, and these cash flow versus profit and loss statements. I'm pretty sure I'll be able to clear an MBA finance exam right now. But the reason I have lost all the hair on my head, with due respect to a lot of people, is because of this. Because I did not have enough knowledge of how to understand the difference between finance, accounting, and the financial reports that are there, it creates a lot of problems. So if you are an entrepreneur or a budding entrepreneur or a decision maker in a company and you are steering clear of these kind of reports, be there. You need to know these things. It is critically important for any decision maker in a company to know at least these terms. And I'm not going to get into the details of this because this can be insanely boring. And it can be insanely mundane for a lot of activities. So I'll just put this out there for people to know that it is important that you look into all aspects of the company. What happened? Okay. The presentation decided that it should end. I'm not going to talk anymore. But thank you for listening. I hope you have had a little bit of insights into things that people do, things that people don't, things that we are good at, things that we are not good at. I'm totally open to questions. I hope I have not overshot the time because looking at his watch. But sorry if I did. But I hope this is enjoyable, as enjoyable for me as it was hopefully for you all. Thank you. Let the beer roll. Or I'm open for questions if there are any. So let the beer roll. Thank you.
Thank you.